Hello, I'm Miss Labot and I'm Head of English at Royds Hall. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the English Department. This presentation is focusing on the English Language and Literature GCSE qualifications, and the aims are to provide more detailed information on the content of the GCSE course, the examinations and revision materials. Your child will be completing an English Language GCSE, and for this we follow the EDUCAS GCSE examination specification. In addition, your child will be completing an English Literature GCSE, and for this we follow the AQA Exam Board specification. Now, the first GCSE that we'll be looking at is the English Language GCSE, and this qualification comprises of three components. There are two written examinations and one spoken language assessment, which is non-exam assessment. The Component 1 examination is the 20th Century Literature, Reading and Creative Prose Writing paper. It's 1 hour and 45 minutes long, and it's comprised of two sections. Section A, Reading, which is worth 40 marks, and that's 20% of the GCSE. And Section B, Writing, also worth 40 marks, and 20% of the GCSE. In Section A of the exam, students were required to demonstrate their understanding of one prose extract that's about 60 to 100 lines long of literature from the 20th century, and this is assessed through a range of structured questions. In Section B, the prose writing section, students were required to complete one creative writing task selected from a choice of 4 titles, aiming to write about 450 to 600 words. The second examination paper is Component 2, and this is the 19th and 21st century non-fiction reading and transactional persuasive writing paper. This exam is slightly longer, it's 2 hours long, and it's worth 60% of the overall GCSE. As with Component 1, this exam paper is split into two sections. Section A is worth 30% of the GCSE and requires students to demonstrate their understanding of two extracts, which are about 900 to 1200 words long, of high-quality non-fiction writing. One of these texts will be from the 19th century and the other from the 21st century. Students' understanding of these texts will be assessed through a range of structured questions. Section B of this exam is the writing section. This section requires students to complete 2 transactional or persuasive tasks. The final component of the GCSE is Component 3, which is the spoken language element, and this requires students to complete 1 presentation or speech, including responses to questions and feedback. Now, throughout the GCSE course, your child will have studied all of the tasks that they're required to produce under examination conditions, and they'll be familiar with the format and the timings of the exams. We ensure that students, along with studying the set text, complete regular exam-style extended writing tasks to prepare them for their exams. In addition, students complete a range of reading tasks to demonstrate their understanding of a range of fiction, and this helps develop confidence with the exam knowledge and skills. The second qualification that your child's completing is the English Literature GCSE. After the disruption to the last academic year as a result of COVID-19, the Exam Board AQA has made some changes to the examinations for 2021. These have been approved by the Office of Qualifications and Examinations Government Department. So for your child, the study of a Shakespeare play is compulsory. For our school, this is Macbeth. In this section of the exam, the pupils will see a short extract from the play, they'll read a short extract and respond to a question on this extract and on the play as a whole. The other compulsory element is the unseen poetry component. And in this section, pupils will analyse a poem that they've never seen before. They must then compare this poem to a second poem on a similar theme. There are usually 3 remaining components in English literature. These are A Christmas Carol, An Inspector Calls, and the Power and Conflict Poetry Anthology. For the 2021 examinations only, pupils must choose to answer questions on 2 of the 3 components, rather than answer on all 3. As a school, we've decided to continue the study of A Christmas Carol and An Inspector Calls, and to stop studying the Power and Conflict Poetry Anthology. Students studied A Christmas Carol and Inspector Calls last year and were confident that they'll respond well to these in the summer exams. Additionally, the compulsory unseen poetry component means that our pupils will still access some poetry work using the poetry analysis skills they've already applied to the Power and Conflict anthology, as well as a modern play, a Shakespeare play, and a 19th century novel. So, to summarise, the GCSE English Literature qualification, your child will sit exams covering A Christmas Carol, An Inspector Calls, Macbeth, and 2 questions focusing on unseen poetry. The Christmas Carol exam will be 50 minutes long and worth 30 marks. The exam focusing on An Inspector Calls will also be 50 minutes long and worth 30 marks. The final exam for English literature is 1 hour and 45 minutes long, including 1 section on Macbeth and the 2 sections on unseen poetry. This exam is worth 70 marks. We appreciate there's a lot of information to go through here. There's also a letter on the school's website that explains the changes to the English literature examination for 2020 in more detail. You're also welcome to email the school if you have any further questions. Now, as you can see from the exam content, it's important that your child understands how to revise for their examinations to develop the recall, retention, and confidence. As a department, we always offer teacher support, both in class and after school. We provide past papers and revision tasks as part of our regular homework and classwork. However, if there is a particular area where your child would like some support or guidance, they're welcome to speak to their English teacher. I would also like to offer some practical strategies to support your child with their revision. Sometimes students find revising English language challenging, as it's unlike revising a subject where there are key facts or dates to remember. The English language GCSE is about demonstrating an understanding of texts and of writing in different forms. Now, exam practice is key. Through practicing how to write fiction and non-fiction texts, your child will develop the skills. In addition, becoming familiar with the format of the text that they might have to create in the exam is key. By understanding how to structure a piece of creative prose or a non-fiction text, they'll gain confidence in the exam. In addition, completing past papers will also support your child with the exam timings, ensuring that they can complete the exam paper under timed conditions. In addition, for GCSE English Language, we also have the Revised English Language Guide available to purchase through ParentPay. There are also free resources available on GCSE Pod, and your child will have an account set up for them already to access this. BBC Bitesize usually has a range of resources, and they have some that are specific for the EDUCAS exam board. I also know that students regularly use other resources such as YouTube and Seneca Learning to support their learning, and the class teachers can supply them with the class code for Seneca Learning if they need one. Now, to prepare for their English Literature GCSE examinations, students need to be confident with the content of the set texts, A Christmas Carol, An Inspector Calls, and Macbeth. There are online versions available for these texts, as well as a range of revision resources on platforms such as YouTube and BBC Bitesize. As I mentioned, students should also have accounts for Seneca Learning and GCSE Pod. And again, if they're unsure of the login details, they can speak to their English teachers who can help with this. We have revision guides and flashcards available for each of the set texts in school, and these can be purchased on ParentPay. And the school ILC, the library, does have copies of these guides for students to use and borrow. Revision techniques are also important to help students to retain the information from revision guides and resources. Techniques such as mind maps or timelines of the narrative in the set text enable students to plot out key events, characters, and themes. In addition, flashcards can support students' recall of key information from the contents of the plays and books covered in the exam. Mr. Knight, another of our English teachers at Royds Hall, has prepared a video on dual coding, which is another excellent revision tool. Finally, for both language and literature, it would be useful for your child to complete some wider reading to develop their personal response and general knowledge of the subject. The ILC has some wider reading resources for the GCSE literature texts. However, non-fiction texts or current affairs information may also develop students' knowledge in preparation for the exams. I hope that this presentation has provided some key information about the language and literature examinations. But as I've mentioned, please do not hesitate to contact the school if you have any further questions. Thank you.